Hi detoxers, today I am going to talk about one of the things that comes up the most in our sugar detox, which is we're going to talk about alternatives to cow-based products. In this detox, there's a few reasons why I don't advocate that we have dairy. And one of them is because not only is dairy heavily processed, and it's very mucus forming, it contributes to all sorts of mucus forming and congestion, asthma, eczema, all sorts of things like that. But most people are unaware that there's actually quite a bit of sugar in milk. Number one, milk, which has in 1 cup has 12 grams of sugar, and it's the type of sugar that is formed lactose. So that was a hint that we talked about in the booklet, which is anytime you see the word OSE at the end of a word like glucose, galactose, mannose, fructose, any of those, that's a sure sign that that is a form of sugar, and lactose is indeed a form of sugar. So for those who have asked me in the past, which is, what happens if I have lactose-free milk? Well, you still get sugar in lactose-free milk. It's actually in the form of galactose and glucose. So those simple sugars also will spike your blood sugar. So having 12 grams in 1 cup is not great. And I want to give you the opportunity to be able to experience whole food eating with not only low sugar, but dairy free. Because that is one of those things that we often don't do in life. We start very early on in our life with dairy products, and it's something that we don't even recognize is creating an issue for us in our health. So you may notice that you have more energy, you have less congestion, perhaps you don't have eczema or bumps on your skin or all these kinds of things that milk will often do for us. So this is an opportunity. So the first 30 days, there's no dairy. So I'm gonna give you some alternatives, and I'm gonna show you some of the easy ways that you can make it yourself, okay? So today is all about alternatives to traditional dairy. So first thing to say is, non-dairy milk is delicious. I have raised my kids on it. They are 16 and 17, they love it. In fact, when they go to someone's house and they have traditional dairy, they don't even know what that tastes like. They actually think it tastes quite disgusting. It's thick and mucousy. And so you can absolutely get all that you need. The biggest concern that most people have when they think about getting off dairy products is we are conditioned to believe that you have to have calcium from dairy. First thing to know is not very absorbable. So having calcium that's within dairy is difficult for your body to absorb. No one eats and drinks more dairy than North Americans, and yet we have in some ways the lowest calcium in our bones and so on. So rest assured, when you are eating a whole food diet like we are advocating in this program, you are easily getting more than enough calcium. There's calcium not only in the fatty fish, but there's also in leafy greens, and there's calcium in nuts and so on. If you decide that you are going to buy your nut milk, which I understand, it's easy to do and it's inexpensive and it's all over the place, also know that that non-dairy milk that you're having is also fortified. So if you're concerned about the amount of calcium and vitamin D, dollar for dollar, ounce for ounce, it has the same amount as conventional dairy. So we're not going to worry about that. This is a perfect example of one of the ones that I would recommend. Really what you're looking for, if you're looking for a non-dairy alternative, is I would advocate that you actually buy it unsweetened. Once you buy it unsweetened, it still has all the things that all the other types of non-dairy milk have, except of course you get to control your sweetener. So when you're using it in your elixirs or you're using it in, for example, your smoothies, you can always add the sweetener and you're in control of that, okay? So this is a perfect example. But if you don't have it or you really want to upgrade your experience, I'm going to show you how you can make it yourself, because it is absolutely delicious. It is thick and creamy and frothy, and you can put a couple of accoutrements in it, and it's something that you're really going to enjoy with, like, again, elixirs and smoothies and so on. And I think it's so delicious that I'm happy to have a cup of it just on its own, which is something I would never do with this kind, okay? So what you're gonna do, first of all, there's lots of different things that you can start to make as your base. I often will use raw cashews. You want to use the raw forms of all of the nuts that you use. Raw cashews are great because the difference is they will emulsify into the water to a point where you do not need to use a nut milk bag. And if you are lazy, like I am, full up going to tell you that right now, then this is a step that I love to leave out. However, if you want to have almond milk, it is not a big deal to be able to use a nut milk bag. You can get these online. I can get them at the health food store. They're super plentiful. Okay, so you can use cashews, I often will use raw almonds. You can also use Brazil nuts, you can use macadamia nuts. Those are the ones that are most common, but you can also make nut milk out of things like hemp hearts. My girlfriend does this all the time. She actually uses it with organic almond butter, the raw form. So she'll use a tablespoon of this with 4 cups of water and she blends it and it's actually super creamy and delicious. This can be a little bit expensive when you're buying raw almond butter, but this is an option for you as well. I'm not going to show you how to make that. I'm sure you can figure that out on your own. And the other option that I think is a significant upgrade from buying coconut milk in the actual Tetra Pak is just to make it yourself. So buyer beware, when you're buying coconut milk, be aware that there is a ton of sugar in it. You will look on the back of the container and it may only say 2 grams of sugar, but also recognize that typically the serving size is 60 mils. And when you are buying something like this, you're buying 400 mils. So there's actually quite a bit of sugar in traditional coconut milk. I would definitely encourage you to buy the unsweetened version and the full fat version, okay? That's the tastiest. What you would do with this, open the can, throw it in your blender with 4 cups of water, voila, you have coconut milk. Also very yummy, okay? So today, I'm gonna use raw cashew. This is raw cashew. So what I've done is I've actually taken a cup of raw cashews and I've soaked it for 4 hours. I will definitely tell you that I have done it straight out of the container. It also works, but it's kind of nice if you do it by first putting it and soaking it for a little while. It just makes it easier. So you put a cup of that and then you put 4 to 5 cups of water. So from there, and I just use filtered water from my reverse osmosis. From here you can do a few things. Again, I recommend that you don't put sugar in it in any form because you can always add a sweetener in your end product. But if you do, then a lot of people will use dates. If you're gonna use dates, you're gonna wanna emulsify those at first so that they have a little bit of a paste to them. So you can use those, but there is a lot of sugar in dates, so just be careful if you're using too much of it. So we have these two. Now, you can add a few things to this that will make it taste super, super luxurious and yummy. A couple things that I do often is I tend to buy fresh nutmeg, and I have a small little grater, and I will put just a few grates in there. Absolutely delicious. You can also put pure vanilla extract, or you can also buy a vanilla bean and you can slice it, scrape it out and put the seeds in here. It tastes really, really yummy. I like to put a little bit of sea salt in mine as well, and that's it. Okay, so if you have a good blender like Blendtec or a Vitamix or something like that, you're gonna have no problem blending this. If you have an older blender or one that's maybe not quite as good, it might take 2 to 3 minutes for you, but for sure it'll blend. So I'm just gonna do this real quick, cover your ears. Go. The great thing about it is you can make this obviously in just a few minutes, and so you're never out of that base that you need, and it's way cheaper than actually buying it yourself. What you can't see, my blender's actually stained with turmeric, so just so you know, the cashew milk's not orange. And there it is. Super, super delicious. And this will keep for anywhere 3 to 4 days in the fridge, which is also another example of how when you make your own products and they go bad in 3 to 4 days, that just means that they're much more pure than buying a Tetra Pak that will keep for 8 to 9 months or so on. So this is how you make it. I definitely encourage you to play with this a little bit. I have felt this is a huge upgrade to my elixirs, and I really love my smoothies with these, and it's so simple to do. So why don't you go ahead and give it a try.